Cleveland Cliffs is putting $1 billion into the Middletown mill where JD Vance's Papaw welded for 40 years. The vice president announced it standing on that floor. Then he turned to name Sherrod Brown and asked the crowd what politicians who left D.C. with millions in stock ever gave them. $1 billion in a Middletown steel mill that the Prestige Press wrote obituaries about a decade ago. 29,000 new manufacturing jobs in 2026 so far. Wages up 4.2% after they cratered under Joe Biden. Now watch who's mad. Sherrod Brown sat 2 years in the Senate with Vance and never raised his voice once against Biden's border crisis. Not once. I'm going to roll a clip where Vance asked that crowd what politicians who left Washington with millions in stock portfolios ever handed them. And the Sharia line about Abdul al-Sayed, oh, that one's coming too. We're talking about $1 billion into a Middletown steel mill. That's real money that you can touch. And that's exactly how I think about protecting what you have built. We've got midterm elections coming up with control of Congress on the line, and markets hate uncertainty. Uncertainty breeds volatility. Between now and November could be the most volatile stretch for stock market and our economy we've seen in years. Now here's the good news. Physical gold and silver hedge that volatility. Noble Gold Investments has spent over a decade helping everyday Americans protect their wealth with precious metals. Simple, easy, and safe. Go to nextnewsgold.com or call Noble Gold at 877-646-5347. Mention my name, and for America's 250th, they'll send you a free 10-ounce silver bar when you open a new qualified account. Don't let Election Day arrive without a plan. Now let's get back to Middletown. Quote, what did all of you get? What did we get? That's Vance to a mill crowd asking about politicians who walked in with a few $1,000 and walked out with millions in stock. They got rich. Middletown got rusted. Now let's pull up the posts. JD Vance posting today, returning today as the Vice President of the United States, standing in the exact steel mill where my Papaw worked for decades to put food on the table. I couldn't help but feel immense pride. Pride of where I came from and the impact places like this had on who I became.
Welder in this place for 40 years, and today his grandson stands here as the Vice President of these United States. It's an amazing thing. And I'm here with a message from the President of these United States. The future of America, the future of the United States, the future of our homes and communities is going to be built right here in Middletown, Ohio.
Same speech, Vance turns on Washington politicians who arrived with a few $1,000 and left with stock portfolios.
Politicians, think about this, who came to Washington with a few $1,000s in their bank account, left after decades of public service with millions in stock portfolios. And what did all of you get? What did we get? If you were lucky.
If you're lucky, you got nothing. From the mill floor to the bar stool, Vance heads to Price Hill Chili in Cincinnati, pouring beers behind the counter.
Okay, a live look now at Cincinnati. Vice President JD Vance trading the campaign trail for the chili counter, serving up beers and hot dogs at Price Hill Chili. Earlier today in his hometown of Middletown, Vance spoke about the economic stability of this country. He's back in the battleground state of Ohio, his hometown, as the midterms, of course, are heating up.
The midterms are heating up. Fox News cameras caught the rest of it. Chili dogs, Coors Light, and a room full of people who actually wanted him there. A great shot of JD Vance there. Behind the bar. That is where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez belongs. C-SPAN picked him up outside the bar, shaking hands on the sidewalk.
How are we doing? We're going to vote this guy for Congress, right? Oh, yeah. Whoa. That is a computer screen. Take a photo over see. Thanks, man. How you doing? Yeah, come over here. Nice to meet you. Hey, how are you? When do you turn 18? Good question.
Back to the speech. Here's the part the left didn't expect. Vance on teachers, on black and white, rich and poor, building this country as one American family.
Teachers, people who made it possible for me to live the American dream when everything else was fighting against it. The cool thing about this nation is that in our own way, making our own contribution, we've built this country together as one American family. Black and white, rich and poor, whether you've been in this country for 10 seconds or whether your family has been in this country for 10 generations, think about it. Every accomplishment of American greatness has a long line of people, many of them who don't get their part in the story, but we all know we're very much part of it.
We are part of it. Every one of us. We make up the fabric of this nation. Then he names names. Abdul El-Sayed, running for Senate in Michigan, once said criticizing Sharia law was rooted in white supremacy.
Now, El-Sayed, this guy running for Senate in Michigan, he once argued, not too long ago, that criticisms of Sharia law were rooted in white supremacy. I'd love to go back in time and tell my Papaw that there's a man who claims to stand for working people who says not only should we have Sharia law, but if you criticize it, you're a white supremacist.
God help us if El-Sayed gets in. But he's not the only Democrat in the crosshairs. Vance served 2 years with Sherrod Brown. He says Brown never raised his voice on the border or inflation.
I served for 2 years in the Senate with Sherrod Brown. He was a friendly enough guy, but he was a man who claimed to represent this state, but never once raised his voice against Joe Biden's border crisis or against the inflation that was brought on by Joe Biden underinvesting and trying to destroy American industry. If you look at it at every step of the way, these Democrats have voted for foreign workers and fraudsters over American citizens and hard-paying taxpayers. They have voted for corporations who sent jobs overseas rather than good American businesses who invested in you, invested in your communities, and increased your jobs. Who do these Democrats put first? Everyone else. You know who the Trump administration puts first? Americans.
That's right. America first. So what does putting Americans first look like? Well, he goes into the numbers next.
And all this new construction is building on a strong base, with manufacturing activity last month reaching its best rate in many, many years. We've created more than 29,000 new jobs in the sector in 2026 so far, reversing years of decline in manufacturing employment. And year over year, manufacturing workers' wages actually went up 4.2%, where they went down under the Biden administration. And frankly, they've been higher in the industries where you've seen that decline in.
And then the announcement he came home to make, Cleveland Cliffs, right there in Middletown.
And that brings me to why I'm here today. Because we're not just here to talk about the celebration and the good news and the numbers. We're here to announce that Cleveland Cliffs is making today, right here in Middletown.
So, where do we go from here? I'll tell you. He said he'd love to go back in time and tell his Papaw that a man running for Senate in Michigan, Abdul El-Sayed, once claimed criticizing Sharia law is rooted in white supremacy. A welder, 40 years on a torch, and El-Sayed's party wants him to know he's a bigot for objecting. That's not his Papaw's Democrat Party, and Vance said it to their faces. Sherrod Brown owes Ohio an answer for the silence, and Abdul El-Sayed owes Michigan one for the Sharia law line. Neither will give it, so we say it. So look at the picture again. The vice president behind the counter at Price Hill Chili in Cincinnati, suit on, pouring beers, handing out chili dogs, shaking hands on the sidewalk. And of course, the left's crowd posts that and sneered that Vance is sounding awfully woke because he said that we built this country together as one American family. They can't process a conservative who loves working people. So share this with somebody who left Ohio to find work. Tell me in the comments what your town looked like before they shipped it off. That mill is loud again, and there's more coming out of that building tonight. See, President Vance carried a message from President Trump onto that mill floor, and we're inside that building too, where those messages actually begin. So text the words White House to 844-840-4963. And Next News Network's credentialed team sends you the nightly file straight from the White House onto your phone before YouTube decides how many of you actually see it. Now, reading it is step one. Step two is being useful. Text Signal to that very same number and enlist in the Next News Signal Corps, where operators pull real assignments, so this reporting never depends on one platform staying friendly. So get in tonight, Patriots.